A few years ago, I started a business making and selling stickers out of my house as a way to earn some extra income. I invested about $300 on a craft cutting machine and a printer, and I learned how to use them, and I opened up a shop on Etsy. One sale turned into 2 sales, and 2 turned into more, and eventually I was getting daily sales on the platform. I eventually opened up my own website using Shopify, and after that, I started to make YouTube videos documenting my journey, and that turned into another income stream all by itself. Without me even realizing it, these income streams have now made me over $150,000, which is pretty insane considering that about 3 years ago, all of these things were just ideas in my head. I've grown a lot and I've learned some really important lessons throughout my journey, and today I'm going to be sharing the most valuable ones to you. I'm hoping by sharing these lessons, I'm hoping that I can give you guys some kind of a head start so that you don't have to learn it the hard way like I did. If you spend some time following finance gurus or influencers on social media, you might be under the impression that making money is some kind of life hack. Like all you need to get rich is to find out this secret information that only rich people know, and once you discover that information, you can be rich too. In my experience, this couldn't be any further from the truth. I've learned that making money is more of a skill, and just like with any other skill, you can get better at it. So how do you get better at a skill? To me, there's no better place to look than professional athletes, and one of my favorites of all time is Kobe. After reading his book called The Mamba Mentality, I found that the way that he thinks about basketball can really be applied to anything in life, including making money in business. In the book, he talks about his approach to getting better at the game of basketball or any other skill, and I'm going to break it down into a 3-part process. The first step is seeking knowledge. The best way to find out things that actually work is to look for people who have been to where you want to go. When Kobe was trying to make it in the NBA, he looked at the greats that came before him to see if there's anything that he could learn. And you're gonna wanna do the same with business. Personally, I like to read about the CEO and founders of influential businesses. It's really amazing how many great entrepreneurs have taken the time to sit down and write about their journey. Some of my favorite books are Creativity Inc. from the co-founder of Pixar, Shoe Dog from the founder of Nike, and Ride of a Lifetime by the CEO of Disney. If you like podcasts, I'd highly recommend How I Built This by Guy Raz. He has these amazing long-form conversations with founders of companies like Whole Foods, Patagonia, Lululemon, and Airbnb. Step 2 is practice. After you've accumulated all this knowledge from the greats, you're gonna wanna actually put it into use. And this is where most people stop. People get so focused on the first step that they never actually take the time to try and implement everything that they've learned. No matter how many books you read or techniques that you learn, you're never gonna learn how to swim if you never jump in the water. And if you wanna get better at making money, you actually have to try to make money. Step number 3 is reflection. Next, you'll want to reflect on whether or not what you're actually doing is working. For athletes, this involves watching back gameplay footage to see if there's anything they can improve on. For business, this is looking at sales data or metrics to see if what you're actually implementing is working. More often than not, analyzing and reflecting on the things that you're doing is actually going to lead to more questions. And this is when you're going to have to go back to step 1 and seek more knowledge. The more times that you can repeat this cycle, the better you'll get at any skill that you're trying to improve on. Whenever I take a browse on social media or YouTube, there's a common thing that I see, and that's that everyone seems to be copying each other. People think that if it worked for somebody else, it's gonna work for you too, and that's not always the case. For me, I've got most of my successes in life going to where everyone else isn't. If you're trying to make money in a crowded market, you're gonna need people's attention, and to get people's attention, you need to stand out. And to stand out, you need to be different. In the early days of Nike, when co-founder Phil Knight was trying to break into the market, he would go to shoe stores and just look at the shelves. He recounts seeing hundreds and hundreds of white and blue boxes. So when he was coming up with his design for Nike boxes, he decided to choose a bright and bold orange color to stand out, and it worked. If you're old enough to remember, there was a day where Yahoo actually owned search on the internet. At the time, their homepage was filled with tons of links to news articles, chat rooms, and shopping sites. When Google was looking to gain market share, they went the complete opposite direction, a blank page with a single search box. And who else remembers when the majority of headphones were black? When Apple launched the iPod in 2001, they went against the grain with bright white headphones as a way to stand out. They even had a marketing campaign to make it seem like it was cool and stylish. It's always a good idea to look at the niche that you're in and to take notes of what's happening. The opportunities are between what everyone else is doing. As much as we like to overcomplicate things, especially when it comes to business, it can really be broken down into two simple things: building and selling. You need to build some kind of product or service that brings value to people, and then you need to sell it by letting the world know about it by using sales strategy and marketing. One of the biggest mistakes that I made early on in my journey is being too focused on one. I would spend a bunch of time making new products and designs, but after I was done, I wouldn't have the time or energy to actually promote it and try to get the world to know about it. This led to a bunch of products that I made that I was really proud of, but I would have zero sales to show for it. It was only after I took sales and marketing seriously is when I really started to gain any traction. And I think that this is actually a common thing for a lot of people. If there was a business spectrum with building on one side and selling on the other, I think that the majority of people would lean heavily one way. My advice would be to know which side that you lean on and to actively work on improving the other side. Or if you're lucky enough to be in business with somebody else, it would be a good idea if each of you focused on one side. This is another common thread that you'll see if you're looking at the co-founders of influential businesses. You have Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak at Apple, Bill Gates and Paul Allen at Microsoft, and Larry Page and Sergey Brin at Google.
Heads are spinning over fidget spinners.
Fidget spinners.
Fidget spinners.
Fidget spinner. My daughter has one. You just kind of put it on your finger and spin it around like this.
It may have seemed like a good idea to start a fidget spinner business back in 2017, but 5 years later and it's not looking so great. The thing with people looking to build businesses on top of trends is that they're really looking for shortcuts. They see this huge explosion of popularity in a product or a niche, and they want a piece of it, kind of like a modern day gold rush. It can seem like a good idea at the time, but the problem is that for the majority of people, it's going to take a couple years to gain traction in a particular market. And by the time that you do, the trend could have already passed and you're back at square one. Let's take a look at an Etsy specific example. During the pandemic, there was a huge influx of people selling face masks. It became so huge that during its peak, Etsy said that over 110,000 sellers were selling masks. According to Etsy, the marketplace sold as many as 29 million face masks, totaling $346 million. So it was definitely profitable for a lot of sellers. But on the flip side, you hear about all of these stories about sellers who invested tens of thousands of dollars in face mask making equipment, and now they're wondering what to do with it now that the demand has dropped to basically zero. It's definitely something to keep in mind if you're still choosing your niche or what type of business you're getting into. I want to share this journal entry that I made back in 2020 during the pandemic. Like a lot of people, I found myself having a lot of extra time during the pandemic, and I wasn't sure what to do with it. As you can see here, I wanted to challenge myself to try something new, and I wrote down here that one of my goals was to start a sticker shop that sells $2,000 a year. I was heavy into Pokemon cards at the time, and I was really just trying to justify buying more cards without feeling guilty. Looking back now at how small that goal was, it's almost laughable now. I've ended up making so much more than that it might seem that I wasn't being very ambitious at all. But to tell you the truth, I think what was actually going on was that I just didn't think it was really possible. Because I've never done anything like this ever before, I didn't know that it was possible to sell $100,000 worth of stickers. Of course, I've seen other people on social media and on the news sharing their stories about how they've made millions of dollars doing something similar, but you always have that thought in the back of your head that it's never going to happen to you. And that's how I felt until I started reaching these small milestones. After I made $10, I knew it was possible to make $100. Because it's just what I did but 10 times. And after I made $100, I knew it was possible to make 1,000, and it just kept on going from there. I now think that it's possible to make $1 million selling stickers, and that's because I've accumulated proof to myself. I can look back at the things that I've done, and I can say that I have evidence for this belief. So that's really my wish for you. Stop thinking in terms of these huge accomplishments or ideas of success. Start by making that first $10 and slowly accumulate the proof over time. Learn that it's possible. If you want to learn more about the specifics of how I actually make my stickers, or if you're looking for a step-by-step guide on how to get your first 100 sales on Etsy, you can click one of these videos over here. If not, thanks so much for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.